Toyota's Raceweek is presented by your local Toyota dealers. Save the date, August 30th through September 1st, 2013. NASCAR Night Racing returns to Atlanta Motor Speedway Labor Day weekend.
And welcome into this week's edition of Race Week, powered by the Sporting News. I'm your host, Zach Klein, and for the next 30 minutes, I'll be at the wheel guiding you through the twists and turns of the racing world. The official start of the racing season is now less than a month away, as the green flag for the Daytona 500 will drop on Sunday, February 24th. A quick glance at the schedule for the entire season reveals the races and venues will follow a similar path as they have in years past, but beyond the when and where of this year's schedule, a lot will be entirely new to fans and competitors. We take a look at the many changes that are to come in this season in this week's cover story. On a cloudy, humid twilight in South Florida, the 2011 NASCAR chase for the Sprint Cup would finally live up to its billing. Tony Stewart drove his way to the championship after sneaking into that final spot in the chase 10 weeks earlier. His number 14 Office Depot team failed to live up to expectations all year, but they came together for the last 10 races, winning 5 to even up the championship points race. They would snatch the chase from Carl Edwards by virtue of a tiebreaker on total wins. The ending worthy to be talked about as one of the best ever in NASCAR's top series. NASCAR looked at all the analytics for the year and determined ratings and attendance were down despite all the drama the Cup Championship produced. There was feeling of disassociation with its fan base that was made concrete by fan marketing surveys filled out after the year. Changes would have to be made or the sport was in danger of losing its footing as one of the major sports in the United States. First on the priority list of change would be to change the car design. The move to the Car of Tomorrow full-time in 2008 was a mixed blessing. It was less expensive to run and much safer, but the fifth generation car was boxy and undistinguished in its design. Hated by most drivers and fans, the aerodynamics of the car discouraged side-by-side racing. Fans could not recognize it by manufacturer either, a concept so simple it was virtually overlooked by research and development. Each manufacturer rolled out its design for the Generation 6 racing car during the 2012 season, and excitement began to build in the NASCAR core fan base. The cars looked like race cars again and could be recognized as the same cars, albeit with a few minor tweaks that would be sold to the public. Testing and after the 2012 season determined the car is poised to meet and exceed those expectations. The car will make its competitive debut at Daytona in February for the 500, garnering great reviews from drivers, teams, and fans alike. The next change NASCAR felt it must address was in qualifying. Before the 2005 season, NASCAR decided that a number of cars would be locked into the field of each race. It was a drastic move away from the past, as the starting grid had historically been based on qualifying speed only. NASCAR knew sponsors were paying more and more money just to get their cars on the track and would ensure that the sponsors would see their car on the track every week, no matter what the circumstances. Certain cars and certain teams were dominant at certain tracks. Cars got spread out on a regular basis, and the tough side-by-side racing that characterized the sport was becoming less and less frequent. Without contact and excitement, the sport was not appealing. NASCAR stepped in and changed the qualifying rules at the end of the 2012 racing season, reverting back to speed-based qualifying. Coupled with the new car, the 2013 season was shaping up to be an important season of change. The final change that needed to be addressed was discovered by accident after last year's first race in Bristol. Fans were upset by the car's ability to run 3 grooves at the small track, squelching the changes for the bumping and banging that historically happens at the small tracks. Fans pushed their displeasure to the forefront, and Bruton Smith responded by setting in motion a plan to grind the top groove on the track. Whether or not the plan worked, NASCAR had been behind the curve in implementing social media into their marketing and promotions, and now they saw the power of the medium to guide or at least factor into the decision-making process. They would just have to find an avenue where they could implement fan opinions quickly. That opportunity came through the Sprint Unlimited race. Budweiser pulled out of the race known as the Shootouts, a 75-lap race at Daytona a week before the Daytona 500. Sprint picked up sponsorship of the race and added an innovative component to the event, letting fans determine the format in the three areas. Format required pit stops and elimination. Fans can vote online up to the start of the race, and their answers will determine how the race will be run. Fans who download and vote on the Sprint app will have their vote doubled as applied to the results. NASCAR sought to implement to enhance their brand and fan experience with these changes, and the fact that they all happen for the beginning of the 2013 racing season is a nice convergence in their strategy. Time will tell whether all the changes will work out as planned, but the lead up for the fans for the 2013 Daytona 500 is more exciting than anyone can remember in a long while.
All right, time for our first break of the day, but when Raceweek returns, we'll hear from the Rowdy Boys at the Sporting News. Stay with us. We're back right after this.
Toyota's Raceweek is presented by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota's Raceweek is presented by your local Toyota dealers.
And welcome back to Race Week, powered by the Sporting News. Each week here on the show, we bring in Stephen Levine and Tom Vandervoort for their unique perspective on the world of racing. Today, they focus on some of the most compelling storylines in a segment better known as the Big Three.
Welcome back to the Rowdy Big Three portion of your Race Week program.
Hey, I got an idea.
Yeah.
Why don't we change it to Race Strong instead of Race Week? What's the Race Week?
You know what? We got a lot to talk about. We don't have time for your little tangents. We just
look,
an
idea.
The biggest story to come out of NASCAR since the King stepped out of the number 43 is first up.
I know what you're talking about.
Ricky Hart-Danica. Ricky didn't lose that number. Oh, no. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Danica Patrick, they're dating.
Let's call them an item.
Will you go with me? Check yes or no.
Doesn't it seem a little weird, competitors dating each other?
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem?
Because they are running against each other for Rookie of the Year.
Oh, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know which one is going to be the Rookie.
Of the year.
I think Ricky has a better chance.
Oh, you think?
But it seems to me, look, we've seen Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon
date
as teammates that got, because they're competing for the same thing. And sometimes, we've seen Steve Young and Joe Montana. They're on the same team.
They dated too? I thought Steve Young was like a Mormon.
They both want the same thing. And so there's tension. I don't know. But, hey, all's fair in love and war, so go for it. Well, who am I to judge? Well, I just think it could be a difficult situation to manage.
Here's what I don't get. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Danica, really? That's the best you could do?
Why are you running down Ricky?
He's like 12.
Just because you're as old as the hills doesn't mean he's a babe in the woods.
I might be as old as the hills, but I ain't.
Although obviously Danica thinks he's a babe.
Aren't you older than me?
Yes.
What do we call them? Pat House? Danica?
Pat House is good.
Rickica?
I don't want to start referring to them like that. They're competitors on the track. That's what I care about. I don't care about this personal stuff.
Danica, call me. All right, let's move on to issue number 2.
Okay.
My friend and yours, Bruton Smith, a friend of this program, came out.
And a brilliant man.
Came out and just sort of lambasted the notion of starting parks. They're bad for the sport. He used the word fraud in describing them.
You sure he wasn't talking about you?
No, he was talking about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. But come on, starting parks, is this really the end-all and be-all of NASCAR evil?
No. It is not the most important issue.
Dial it down, Bruton.
However, I will say this. He kind of has a point. When you have a system where competitors show up at the top level of the sport, the top level. We're not talking about nationwide series.
Wouldn't the top level be up here, not down here?
No, it's up here because otherwise you kind of. Okay. And so if you're going to have starting parks or teams that are trying to build their way up and make it, they should have a way to do that through the lower series. They shouldn't be showing up.
They should.
Well, then that's the issue that needs to be fixed.
We don't live in your little ideal world, though.
Well,
and if you're like Tommy Baldwin Racing and you're trying to build something, what other avenue is available to you?
Why not go race in the nationwide series? Well, it's just a thought. I mean, look, I don't know the financials
like
of it.
European soccer. We don't have relegation and delegation.
Maybe we should.
And promotion.
Maybe we should.
But we don't.
Well, the point is we're trying to change what we have now because it's a problem. Is it the biggest problem in the world? No. But having starting parks in the Sprint Cup Series it leaves a bad taste in your mouth watching these guys drop off after 10 laps. And look, I'm not blaming them, okay? I am not saying they're doing something wrong.
Within the rules.
They're operating within the circumstances that we have now. But if we could change those circumstances to get those teams racing in the lower series, maybe you get more competitive action in the lower series and you have a way for teams to kind of move up. It would be great.
Let's move on.
I'm with you, Bruton.
You live in this ideal world that just doesn't have any basis in reality. So let's just move on and talk about my friend and yours, Kyle Busch. Look,
I thought Bruton Smith was my friend and yours.
What, you only have one?
We only have one joint friend. That's as far as I'll go.
Last year, Joe Gibbs Racing limited Kyle Busch's ability to participate in the Nationwide Series, put the kibosh on any Truck Series race. Yet, Kyle only won one Cup race and missed the chase. So, Joe Gibbs Racing is loosening those reins a little bit, giving him back some nationwide starts, allowing him to start in some truck races again, hoping that maybe Kyle gets his mojo back. Is this the right move, right direction?
Nah, I mean, I don't think it's that big a deal. Honestly,
dude, missed the chase.
You're implying that
M&M's thinks it's a big deal.
Maybe Kyle changed his breakfast cereal. There are these two things. He raced fewer times in the Nationwide Series, and he missed the chase. So therefore, they must be related. I don't think that's necessarily the case. The most likely explanation for the guy missing the chase is he had a crap season. The most likely reason that he had a crap season is because his cars weren't as good as he needed them to be. That's the most likely reason. Not that he just imploded because he didn't have that seat time in the Nationwide Series. That's a crock of crack.
If he had a crock of crack?
Crock of crack.
If he had a crappy season, don't you want to make some adjustments in order to try to counteract
maybe he should
the
start
crappy season?
Writing with his left hand. I mean, you might want to figure out why you think.
Your solution is to do nothing.
My solution would be to improve the race cars and not focus on some ancillary issue about how many times I race in some other series.
They're not mutually exclusive. You can focus on the race cars and you can try to change the circumstances to improve.
Okay, let him start more times in the Nationwide
Thank you,
Series.
I will.
Fine. I don't think it's worth a hill of beans.
I'm Steven. Thanks for watching.
All right, guys, thanks as always. Never a dull moment with those two. And we invite you to check out their other work over at thesportingnews.com/NASCAR. Time for another break, but when Race Week returns, we'll sit down and talk to NASCAR Chairman and CEO Brian France.
It's kept. That's a hard promise.
Toyota's Race Week is presented by your local Toyota dealers. Save the date, August 30th through September 1st, 2013. NASCAR Night Racing returns to Atlanta Motor Speedway Labor Day weekend.
And welcome back to the show. All the changes happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series this year could make the average fan's head spin. New car designs, new rules for the preseason duels, new drivers on new teams leave us with the feeling that everything will be different come this year. Now, Brian France, chairman and CEO of NASCAR, knows that the changes are a lot for the fans to grasp, but all have been well thought out and for the good of the sport, as he explains in this week's Speedway Conversation.
Obviously, we got away from some things that historically had worked well for us. The manufacturer rivalry, which we're excited about, the relevance issue with the car manufacturers, and then I think we put a lot more focus in the new car into the rules package surrounding the car that we didn't put nearly. I can tell you, we didn't put nearly as much science into the old car as we tried to achieve better racing. So, no sense in worrying about what happened in the past. We're excited about the future. Well, they're a lot better now than they were a year ago because there's an opening of some sort. It's still very difficult, but my hope is, and I know there are a couple of big manufacturers, and there always are. This is not breaking news. There's always somebody who has an interest in at least understanding the NASCAR opportunity, and so my sense of it is over time that we will have a fourth manufacturer. And that we'll have to see how that plays out. But sure, we're certainly open to it. What it really has done for me, though, as a fan, because we're fans too, is it shows that the drivers and teams, when it's all on the line, can really elevate their talents. And you saw that with Tony in that incredible run 2 years ago. You certainly saw it with Brad getting on a roll and competing. And you never had those moments to judge a driver in the old system. And I like that.
Now, things are still quiet on the track for a few more weeks, but there is still plenty happening off of the track. Let's take a look at what is in front of the headlines in this week's edition of News and Notes. Joe Gibbs Racing confirmed last week they have re-signed driver Kyle Busch to a contract extension that will keep Busch with JGR for a long time to come. That takes maybe the preeminent free agent off the market for next year, just a few months after they signed the biggest free agent from last year, getting Matt Kenseth away from Roush Fenway Racing. With the signing of Kyle Busch, JGR has a team with the great blend of veteran know-how from a past champion winner, with two great young drivers poised to challenge for the championship in years to come. Elsewhere, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Danica Patrick confirmed last week they are dating. Danica announced the split with her husband in November after 7 years of marriage, saying that the marriage was irretrievably broken. Danica confirmed the relationship to the Associated Press. Now, Stenhouse Jr., when asked about the relationship, chose to say that he doesn't discuss his personal life. Can a relationship flourish between two Rookie of the Year contenders that drive for separate manufacturers? I guess we'll find out as the season progresses. Time now for our final break of the day, but when we return, we're going to hit that rewind button and take a look back at last season's race at Martinsville. Stay with us. We're back right after this. And thanks for keeping it here, friends, on Raceweek, powered by the Sporting News. Without a doubt, the best feud of 2012 was the brawl in Phoenix between Jeff Gordon and Clint Bowyer in the next to last race of the season. The seeds of that confrontation were sown earlier in the year in Martinsville. We take a look at what started a season-long duel between the two in this week's Rewind. It's no secret that when the NASCAR circuit hits the short tracks, that corners get close and the tempers get short. On a beautiful day in Henry County, Virginia, the King, Richard Petty, gave the most famous command in motorsports. Casey Kane led the field to green from the pole, but Kevin Harvick blows by Kane on lap 1, keeping intact Kane's record of not leading a single lap in any race this year. Harvick led for 21 laps until Jeff Gordon passes him on lap 22. Gordon in the lead. That'd be a theme you would hear all race long. He would lead 328 laps on the day. He pick it up on lap 97, and Kyle Busch brings out the caution flag as he gets loose and hits the wall hard, breaking the track bar. He would finish the race 80 laps down. During the caution, Ryan Newman gets a speeding penalty entering pit road, and Jimmy Johnson gets a penalty exiting pit road. Both would have to restart the back. Lap 229, the crowd would roar on their feet. Dale Jr. gets to the front and leads the race for 3 laps. We're now on lap 315. And the engine of Casey Kane Chevrolet clocks out early, and the Kane, well, he's done for the day. Carl Edwards had a tough day, but found time to play a little April Fool's joke on his crew chief, Bob Osborne, on lap 354. Take a listen.
I think I just broke the transmission. Yeah, it's broke.
Come back on that, buddy?
I was just giving you an April Fool's joke, but
yeah. What you're going to do is kill me, and then you'll be on your own.
Oh, man, I got to have some fun with it.
Good stuff there. As for Johnson, he would come back and grab the lead on lap 356, completely overcoming that speeding penalty that he suffered earlier in the race. 3 laps to go now, and Hendrick's teammates Gordon and Johnson battle for first. Gordon just gets by Johnson when the caution comes out as David Rudiman inexplicably stays out on the track after breaking the rear track bar, passing up a chance to get into the pits. The first attempt at the green-white checkered flag restart, and chaos breaks out as Ryan Newman pushes Clint Bowyer hard enough where he gets into Gordon and Johnson, bringing out another caution and taking the 2 Hendrick cars out of contention. Ryan Newman gets past the melee and takes the lead for the restart, and he holds off A.J. Allmendinger to get his first win of the year. From a look back to a look ahead, this is what we have on tap for next week's show. We'll get a State of the Union address from NASCAR Chairman and CEO Brian France. We'll also pay a visit to the garage and hear from all the top teams about what lies ahead. We'll have all that and more next week right here on Raceweek. And with that, the checkered flag on today's program. I would like to thank you for joining us here on Raceweek as we bring you coverage from your perspective, the fans. For the entire Over the Wall crew, I'm Zach Klein. Thanks for joining us and have a great week, everybody.